shine a light on these people. Look at this progression. Trump helped shine a light on these people. Look at this progression. May of 2018, there is no deep state. Former intelligence directors slam Trump's conspiracy theory. Then in 2019, they're like, well, there is no deep state, but maybe there should be. 2022, Daily Beast. You're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. So it went from there is no deep state to there is no deep state, but there should be, to you're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. That wouldn't have happened without Trump, period. It's not uncommon for Ukrainians, the same Ukraine that we were celebrating on 60 Minutes, and we want to send all this money to, all the black identitarians, all the black cabal in DC is like fully on board with. Forget about the Yahtzees and all that kind of stuff. Just from this standpoint, it's not uncommon for Ukrainians to refer to African Americans as N-word. Volunteers of color may be called a monkey, or see children's game with blackface. This is the country you're supporting. This is the culture you support. You put a Ukrainian flag out. A lot of y'all probably never even had an American flag in your bio before. You're probably triggered by it. Nothing like supporting a country that would look at you as N-word and a monkey. Y'all supporting some crazy stuff, man. Same. What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Rural America is beautiful. Taking some time with the family. We are in rural parts of this country. Funny story, we went to see Mount Rushmore. And the only presidents my son knows are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So I asked him, who did you see on Mount Rushmore? My son says Joe Biden, and I'm dying of laughter. And I'm like, no, son, he didn't make it on there, and not unless you're doing worst of all time would he make a Mount Rushmore. But I love rural. 1 2 1 2 testing audio, going live with Che pretty soon. Just wanted to check it. Mic check. America, peaceful. If you don't bother people, they don't bother you. Something to think about as things get crazier in our world. Take care. Babylon B got locked out of Twitter for misgendering somebody. But if race and gender are both social constructs, and Candace Owens, for example, views herself as a black woman, why does Twitter allow tweets that call her white? In fact, a white supremacist. Is Twitter racist? It's very possible that Disney could have said, you know what? We want to do more representation, but at the same time, we're not going to demonize DeSantis. We're not going to demonize this bill, and we're not going to demonize fellow citizens who support the bill. You know, that is a possibility. That's not what they're doing. They're coming out, and not in this clip here, but they're coming out very strongly against the bill. Instead of saying, hey, we don't have any problem. Here's what we do at Disney. We create heartwarming stories. And I see a divide in our country. And maybe we can use Disney as a platform to create heartwarming stories with representation that, I don't know, maybe brings us together for a couple hours to watch a movie. Why isn't that a possibility? It is a possibility. And because they didn't do that, it makes me wonder why. So we have some comments in the chat. Let me take a break, read some comments on the reparations. Reparations are a fail, Casual Goat says. Stop focusing on the black community and stop putting them down. Reparations could include dropping CRT in cities. These are the things that keep black people down. Amen.
Ultra MAGA, ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Who came up with this phrase ultra MAGA? Why the need to kick it up a notch?
Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or libertarian. They would say Comic Dave Smith is ultra MAGA. They would say Robbie the Fire Bernstein is ultra MAGA. They're libertarians. They would say Rand Paul. Kim Iverson, guess what? You're ultra MAGA. Congratulations. Join the club. It will be fun. You'll feel better. Embrace it. I'll make a Kim Iverson branded ultra MAGA shirt for you. MAGA doesn't mean what it used to mean. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. Nico House, one of my favorite YouTubers, and Fiorella and Pasta and peasant journalists. You too, you're not exempt. You're ultra MAGA. Will Cormier, you're ultra MAGA, friend of show. River, you're ultra MAGA. Congratulations, whether you liked it or not. If you don't agree with the Disinformation Governance Board, you are ultra MAGA, whether you like it or not. Welcome to the sound check 1 2 again. Getting started soon. Thanks for stopping by. Club, embrace it. Have fun with it. This week in a Thursday interview, Wheeler, the head of this PAC that lied, conceded that it was wrong when they insisted this photo of another woman in a bed was her. That was the photo with the woman that looked like she came out the 70s in Las Vegas. It was wrong when they claimed Boebert initially failed to disclose a campaign contribution from Ted Cruz. It was wrong when they suggested Cruz made a big contribution to Boebert's campaign immediately after she started running. It was wrong when they got the date of her accident wrong. It was off. And it was wrong when they said she had an abortion in the fall of 2004 with the most generous interpretation that would only give her 6 months before you said she had an abortion and when she gave birth to her son. Something that would take 2 seconds to verify. Is this online gender-based harassment? Would this fall under the purview of this group, Ms. Kamala Harris? I demand an answer. They are saying because America started with British colonizers coming here with African slaves, that everything, the Declaration of Independence, the founding of the country, the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution is sort of trash.
Some will say, okay, so are you arguing for throwing out the Constitution? Should the Constitution be thrown out? What do we do?
The Constitution is kind of trash.
Spider sense start tingling.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
What did you say, nigga?
It was written by slavers and colonists and white people who were willing to make deals with slavers and colonists.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
Spider sense start tingling.
They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that? They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that?
As to be expected. There's a lot of things that are wrong with this industry. It's not just with the content per se, even the economic model is very archaic.
Yeah, I dreamed of being a comic book artist since I was a little boy, and I worked my way up. It was so hard. I made it to DC Comics, made it to Superman. My little boy dream came true. They made him woke. They got rid of his American citizenship. They said that truth, justice, and the American way doesn't matter. So you guys reported on it in October. I famously walked off the book, and that was a big deal. And soon after, I met up with Eric, and we started working on ISOM together. And I also made another book with another Warner Brothers DC Comics veteran, David Williams. And we created Truth, Justice, American Way as our love letter to like your classic Avengers, Superman, Batman kind of stories. So that's going on too. And working on ISOM with Eric has been amazing.
But I also come from escaped slaves, okay? The people who weren't going to live under tyranny. I also come from a long line of civil rights activists, people who stand up when it's time to stand up, and they say, no more, I'm not going to kiss the ring, I'm not going to bend the knee, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's the spirit that we have to have right now, and I definitely have it, and I want to spread it to you.
What's good? So I was here stuck in the middle. Thanks for joining. Got a special guest coming up here. So I was able to do my sound check, but I was not able to get his sound check going. So I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to do a live sound check here just to make sure that we're going well. And then I'll do a proper intro. Jay, let me add you to the stream here where we are live. What's up?
What's going on? Can you hear me?
I got you loud and clear. So we will start off, see if we get some feedback from everybody else. I hear you loud and clear, sir. If you are in the chat, let me know. Thumbs up. Thumbs up on Che too. And the reason why I'm being extra careful Everybody on the channel knows I have had audio problems. You know, we just doing this thing. Like, I don't have anybody helping me or anything. No excuses. But I met with Che yesterday. We had a great conversation. It was supposed to be recorded, spliced, and uploaded. And I went back into it, and my heart dropped when I heard my voice, and I did not hear his voice. So I got him back. I was like, let's do it live. Everyone in the comments will let us know. Che sounds good. Let's get it. Let me do a proper introduction for you, then let you go. Che. Che is a political commentator, host of the No Spoon podcast. It's a platform aimed at bringing the truth amidst the lies purported by the mainstream media. Che, what's good? How you feeling?
Hey, what's going on, Osiris? Good to be here again. Hey, it don't matter how many times. It was a pleasure talking to you yesterday, so I'm excited about doing it again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's a lot we're going to get into. I'm going to try and get into some topics and all that. But Che, you've got a heck of a story, man. Can you just give us a little bit of your background and how you got to this point where, you started a podcast and you're just like me talking about this stuff? How'd you get to this point?
Well, I mean, my backstory is pretty interesting. I took the long way to get here. I didn't actually start off like most people did. I actually went through a lot of adversity, kind of on the way here. When I was younger, I was into sports and doing all that type of stuff, and in high school and all that, and then I kind of was halfway into sports, halfway into the streets, and then once the sports kind of went the way that it went, I went to the streets, and at the age of 20, I caught a case for an attempted murder, and I ended up doing 15 years off of it. So I spent 15 years incarcerated from the age of 20 to 35. During that time, it was a journey. I was really focused on trying to better myself and put myself in the best position possible to not repeat what I just did, and to find myself back in that situation. So I started studying a lot, started studying myself, started studying the world. That took me down the road of the Marxist road and the revolutionary road, and that path. And I studied everything under Marx, everything Mao, everything that you can think of, and it kind of deviated for a time. It wasn't really until I came home that I was like, things are different. Things are not the way I thought it was. Excuse me. I'm kind of getting over a little cold here. So, but now my philosophy has changed a lot. I really just saw that was a ploy, that there was things used to empower the state, and it was empower the elites, and they use that, and they really just kind of manipulate the people to kind of consent to their own demise. That's what I like to say. And so on my channel, and what I try to do, and on my podcast, we talk about liberty, we talk about freedom, we talk about independence, self-sufficiency, and being able to stand on our own, self-governance to a certain extent. That's really what I'm about now. And so I just kicked off a nonprofit organization that we just started. I'm working with Rebuilding Cali Alliance. It's out here in California. I'm in Los Angeles. We are helping guys that are just getting out of prison, that are reentering society, and try to get them back to reunited with their families and reunited to being the leaders that they are in their community. We started our first class yesterday of an 8-week program that hopefully is going to keep going on, and we're going to kind of get these guys prepared and get them out of this victim mindset. And that's the main thing that differentiates us from other programs, is that we don't allow these guys to sit and wallow into the past. We like to get moving forward and understanding that you created the situation you're in, but that just shows you that you can create. And if you created a bad situation, you create a better one. So that's what I'm doing and then just trying to get the word out there to people that we don't really need these people to survive. That's how I look at it.
Empowering message. And that is one heck of a transformation, if I could go on that, because I don't think there's many people in this channel that would have expected me to have somebody on by going by Che. Like, is that from Ernesto Che Guevara, like the vicious? Well, there's good and bad with everybody, but where'd you get the name from? Tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of went from the Marxist side over.
Well, I mean, it was a nickname that was given to me when I was really studying all that stuff. He was my favorite of everybody to read about, and particularly because he wasn't the theorist, he was more of the doer. He was out there, and like you said, there's good and bad to everything, and it all depends on the perspective that you're coming from. I really like the resolve that he had, even though I don't agree with his philosophy anymore. I'm not. That's not what I'm purporting. But at the same time, I think when you're in the situation like I was in and being in prison, you're really next to people. Like there's literally times when you're next to people that are your enemies, and that if given the opportunity, they're going to try to kill you. But at the same time, you respect the fact that you're a soldier for your side, and I'm going to be a soldier for my side, and we respect that about each other. We respect the fact that you're willing to do and what I'm willing to do. you know, I might not agree with it, or it might be against me, but at the same time, I respect your stance. And so that's kind of how I look at it now. I didn't drop the name because the person that gave it to me, I still have a lot of love and respect for that individual. We went through a lot together. His views have since changed as well, but it's just something that stuck. And at first, I was calling myself Red Pill Che, just to sort of say like I'm the Che, but of this side. But I just kind of thought that was corny. Later on, I was just like, just Che. People call me Che, and that's just what I go with. But yeah, I look at it like that. Like we need a lot of people on this side that are going to be soldiers and really willing to fight and willing to stand up for their beliefs and stand on their morals and their values, like people do on the other side for the most part, and people do it on both sides. But we need more of that, and that's kind of where I came with that nickname.
Yeah, on your podcast, you talked about Che Guevara, and one of the things, tell me if I'm right here, my interpretation was that one of the things you looked at as a positive, at least, or something you can take away, was that Che went into, let's make sure we're clear. We're talking about political warfare, not like we're peaceful here, but he went into guerrilla warfare, saying that you can't go into this black pilled. You can't go into this thinking that you're going to lose.
Right. No, that's correct. I mean, he did say that. He said that the first rule of a guerrilla fighter is that we will win, and understanding and believing that. And I believe that about the situation that we're in now. Like, we're going to win. I believe that the real power, the real power to the people isn't on that side. I think the Marxists and the leftists have everybody kind of twisted and confused to believe that giving the state power is actually giving the people power, but it's not. And it's obvious that should be obvious to most people. But I mean, when you're good with words and you're good with twisting things and manipulating things, then it comes off a different way. But yeah, I firmly believe that we're going to win this, and and there's no doubt in that. And that's one of the things that we've been talking about lately on my show, is that I get that a lot, and I've went for the first year or two just talking about what's going on and getting people to understand that, hey, this is what they're doing. When they do this, they really are doing this, and here's the backdoor moves and all these different things. And then I would always get this question. Always, the question I would always get asked is, okay, so what are we going to do? What are we going to do about this? And so now I'm kind of gearing towards that of what are we going to do? And I think a lot of it, well, I think it starts with the mindset. It starts with the mentality, and that if you don't have a certain mentality, then there's no point in, we can talk about being a prepper, and we can talk about storing food and learning how to, be a survivalist, so to speak. But so what if you're mentally weak, and if you're not strong enough to understand that, first of all, we're going to overcome all this, we're going to win this, because this is just the natural law of life. I mean, we can't keep playing these games anymore. These people want us to believe things that don't exist, that are just not true. And I always say this, man, like, you have to submit to reality. I don't care if you think that you can fly, and you can come to me and say, hey, Che, I believe I can fly. And I'm going to say, that's great. I'm glad that you think that. But the minute you say I'm about to jump off a 3-story building, I'm going to say, well, guess what? You're going to submit to reality very fast. And it's not going to be a good ending for you. So, that's why I think we're going to win. I mean, it's the truth. That's, at the end of the day, it's the truth.
It's funny, Che. I subscribe to, because I've been going to the library, and going to the library now is not like going to the library when I went to the library with my parents. It's just, there's other stuff out there that you got to vet these books. before. Not that, you can have whatever ideology you want, but you might bring something home you don't want. So I subscribe to this Brave Books. And it's funny you mentioned that. They literally have a book about an elephant who believes the elephant wants to be a bird. And the elephant climbs a tree and is going to fly, just like you were saying. It's like, oh, and then the elephant fell. It's like, oh, you're not a bird. You do have to submit to reality eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of my favorite kids' books. So people in the chat are giving you some love. They said, hola, Che. In the chat, they're saying, hey, is he a leftist? Hey, they're like, Osiris, you got a dude on here who's a leftist and is red pilled? Is that an accurate way to describe yourself? What was your red pill moment, Jay?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, everything changed. Everything changed when I came home, and I started, like I said, you reading books, and you read a lot of books, and you think you know a lot about the world, and what they talk about in the books and these theories in the books and stuff like that, it sounds good, but in real life, people don't live this way. And in real life, we have to have practical solutions to problems that maybe seem complicated, but really are not. And so it's like, one of the things that I looked at in as far as that type, like the Marxist ideology was perfect for people in prison, right? Because it gives you an excuse. Let's just call it what it is. It gives you an excuse. It gives you a reason to say that the reason I ended up making these bad decisions was because of capitalism, was because, and that's the reason why I'm in jail. And therefore, until capitalism changes, this is my life. And I don't like that idea, because that idea to me takes all the power away from the individual. We talk about power to the people, and that's one of the left loves to say that phrase, but they really don't exemplify that, because real power to the people is when you are able to make decisions and take control of your own destiny. If my problems are a result of capitalism, then I have to wait for capitalism to change. And if capitalism never changes, then I can never change. So who has the power? Not me. So that's one of the things that I started to look at, and that was my ideology, personal ideology. Even while incarcerated, my personal ideology was that nobody can tell. I'm in control of my life. I made bad decisions. All I have to do is make good decisions, and that'll change my life. Well, that didn't add up with my political ideology. So when I started to come home and I started to see these things play out, and I started to see a lot of the things that I thought, that the books were telling me, and it just didn't add up, that started to shift the way I started to look at things. And then I started to get deeper into like really paying attention to the media and how they were just manipulating things and the lies that they were telling. And it just sent me down this rabbit hole that I guess, we use the term red pilled, and that's what happened.
Yeah. For so many people, the pandemic, man, the government, not the actual pandemic, the government response to it, even leading up to right now. I just heard the story, I think it was yesterday or today, that Joe Biden, and they said that there was strong disagreement in his camp, which I don't know if I believe or not, but Joe Biden is going to potentially extend the emergency powers of the president beyond the midterm for the pandemic. And I bring that up because a lot of that is what woke me up. I'm seeing people in the chat. Ray Studios, friend of the show, said J6 in 2020. So many people I hear. Clifton Duncan had this great speech at the Mises Institute in Auburn, and he was talking about how the pandemic, one of his moments was when they shut down Broadway, and then they said liquor stores were essential. He was like, whoa, this is not making any sense. So a lot of people are relating to your story. Let me share this tweet. I want to get your response to this, because I think it goes along with what you just said. So this person, Javon, on Twitter stated, Obama, this is his progression, and his progression leads him to socialism, what he calls socialism. 2008, Obama is my hero, proud liberal. 2016, supported Bernie, but voted Hillary because of Trump, proud progressive. And then you can talk about there was some shenanigans with the Dem primary with Bernie. So now he's jaded. He doesn't like Obama anymore. He liked Bernie. The Dem establishment squashed Bernie. 2020, F Obama, F the duopoly, F oligarchy. Democrats have been complicit with Republicans this whole time. F capitalism, proud socialist. And to me, it's not just race, it's this divide too, where this does not resonate with the most people on this channel here, that type of ideology. If you could talk to Jovan, Che, what would you say to him?
Well, I mean, I understand his sentiments and what he feels about the establishment, but I mean, if we're going to talk about socialism, who controls the means of production in socialism? The very same establishment that you say you hate. You know, that was one of the things that got me up is especially the gun control, right? I would hear people talking about, and you still hear people talking about, oh, we need to ban guns, we need to take away guns, we need to limit the rights of people to bear arms, and this and that. And I would say, okay, well then who's going to have the guns? Because you're a fool to think that is the government going to give up the guns? Is the police going to give up the guns? Are they giving that up? And these are the same police that you're telling me that are racist. The same police that are telling me that those same police that in Uvalde who didn't respond the way that you say, and then you say, well, that proves a good guy with a gun theory is out the window. Are those? They're going to still have guns. The state is still going to be empowered. And so when I talk about socialism, you know, that's great that you see yourself as a socialist, but the same people that you're saying F all these people to, those are the people that are going to be in charge of your food production. Those are the people who are going to be in charge of all the means of production, because that's what socialism is. It's a nationalization of, and it's the control of the means of production by the state. So it's like, I, you were there, you were going down, and then at the last second you just made a quick left turn that completely missed it.
Yeah, and I really try to bridge. I want to make sure that people like Javan don't view me as an enemy, because I see exactly where you're coming from. And I let them speak their language, and some of them walk with the old Soviet Union flag with the hammer and sickle. And it turned me off at first, but I was like, it's not really about the symbol you use, because some people use MAGA as a symbol, a red hat, or you can use the old. So it's really, what are your actions? What are you about? I think they want power with the people, even though they might be misguided, because socialism always goes towards dictatorship. But they want power of people. I want power with the people. I want to make sure they know we might disagree, but we aren't enemies.
Oh, I agree with that 100%, because at the end of the day, we all want power to the people. And see, so we have to think about that, and we have to really examine that, because that's become just a cool phrase and a slogan to say that people like to just throw out there, and it sounds good, because nobody's who walks around saying, let's give power to Ted Cruz, let's give power to you know what I'm saying, to Chuck Schumer, let's give power to Nancy Pelosi. Nobody does that. That's not a cool thing to say. So when we talk about power to the people, we have to mean power means that the people have a more of an input, they have more of a say so, they have more of a choice in the matter, right? In policy, they have more of a say so. In culture, they have just more of a say so in their every day-to-day lives, right? Taxes is a great example of this, because that's me giving a portion of the wealth that I work for and giving it to state and telling the state, now you do as you see fit, right? It's giving them the control of that. So what we want is limited government. We want limited government interference in our lives. We want to be able to make, when situations come up, we want to be able to make the call on the situation and have a say so. So if, for example, we just saw like the Roe v. Wade thing. And so what initially happened in the original ruling of Roe v. Wade was that Supreme Court justices ruled something that was not initially found to be a constitutional right. Well, we found they made it a constitutional right. They declared that to be a constitutional right. All the Supreme Court did this time is say, no, we should send that back to the states, and the states, in the form of either electing their legislators or legislation itself, meaning to vote on the issue and say, hey, is abortion a constitutional right or not? And how far should it go? We just saw that get play out in Indiana, where Indiana said that no, abortion should be banned unless it was I believe it was, in the case of rape, incest, or the well-being of the mother. So that's the people being able to have a say so. If the other way around is there is no people in the original Roe v. Wade, 1973, the people didn't get a say so. So I don't understand where people are getting this mixed up. but it's all because of the messaging, and it's all because of the machine that we're up against, with not just the politicians and the Washington establishment, but also the media and the Hollywood elites and all these people that they use this, and they get people to think, hey, at the end of the day, you should give more power to the state and let the state decide, because that's really what they're saying.
Yeah, and Kansas decided that they wanted access. When they just voted. So I think that's beautiful. If you live there, you can decide. If you live in Indiana, you can decide. That kind of takes us to, you're talking about the power of the government, centralized government, kind of takes us to this story about the IRS.
Right.
Yeah, the IRS. So they did a fact check. This is just a local News 19 website. But they said, did the Internal Revenue Service buy nearly $700K in ammunition in early 2022? Says yes. Scroll down. Answer true. Yes, between March 1st and June 1st, the IRS ordered about $700,000 in ammunition, a spokesperson confirmed. And this is also in wake of the IRS adding agents. Now, this is going to be done over, my understanding, 10 years. So it's not going to be tomorrow they're going to add 87,000. But if you look at the legislation, at least the most recent version I've seen, they have 2031, 87,000 budgeted to hire 87,000 more gradually over that time. So they're buying more guns and ammo. I don't know if all those agents are going to retire. It looks like they're trying to expand government power. What do you think about these type of news stories?
I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. You're expanding the federal government, and the IRS. I mean, this is the Internal Revenue Service. These are the people that are in charge of taking, getting our tax dollars. And so so when I look at a lot of these issues and things that come up, most of it revolves around the issue of taxes, because that's the Marxist game plan. The Marxist game plan is they want to control the means of production, and that means control your wealth. They want their wealth redistributors, right? They want to redistribute wealth. So one of the things I looked at is when they started the whole defund the police movement, right? Well, it was like, okay, why are they defunding the police? Is it because the police are racist, or the police are doing bad things and this and that? But then you started to look, and you got to think with the Marxist viewpoint, right? So my agenda is, if I'm a Marxist, I need to control the wealth, and that's the government doesn't make money; it takes money, right? And it takes it from the people. So when you look at city budgets, let's go down to the local level of city budgets, and you start looking and saying, wow, in major metropolitan cities, the police departments make up 40% of the budget, sometimes half of the budget. Like, this is a major chunk of a city budget. And if I'm trying to redistribute that wealth, and the whole point of redistributing wealth is so that I can own it, meaning if I now to take some of that money from the police department and invest it into housing, then I can control the people through the housing. Now, because there's a phrase that I use this all the time, it's he who pays the piper picks the tune. If the people are paying for it, if the government is paying for it, then the government can tell you what to do with it. And so what they want to do is take that money from the police and then redistribute it into other areas, housing, education, all these different other things, avenues that they use, and then they'll be able to tell you what you can and can't do. They'll have different stipulations on what you can and can't do. We already seen that housing, like with Section 8 and things like that in public housing, that you couldn't have certain offenses, like criminal offenses on your record in order to get that. These are just prerequisites to other things, because what you're going to see happening now is they're going to be political views are going to be used against you to where you can't get access to these funds. So that's the whole point of all this. So when you expanding the IRS only tells me that they want to get more tax dollars because they want to have more control. That's where the control comes from, is controlling your wealth. You can control a lot of different things, but when you start playing with people's money, that's the easiest way to get them to comply. We saw that happen just recently with the vaccine mandates and things like that. People complied with it because they didn't want to lose their job. They didn't want to lose their job, and these are just prerequisites for more things that are going to come. So when I see the IRS expanding and the federal government expanding, it's really simple in what they're trying to do. They're just trying to get bigger and have more control and more power.
Yes, B. Deering says the IRS are no joke. They're targeting people that donated to 45. That is the concern. We had that happen. I don't have that story pulled up to go into the details, but a while back that happened under Obama, where there was the IRS scandal. And they admitted, well, it was the Tea Party at the time. They admitted, I would have to bring that up. They admitted to going after the Tea Party, and Obama had to kind of come out forcefully against that. So that's exactly what your concern was there. When you look at the kind of the impact of this, the IRS does not go after rich people like they do lower to middle class, because rich people, they have a bunch of lawyers, and you don't want those problems, even if you are the government. It's just not a good cost benefit. So what you're going to see is, this is from, guess who tweeted this? This is from Marjorie Taylor Greene. So you wonder how I came from this channel. When I started this channel in 2020, I supported AOC. I was still blue pilled. And then now I'm like, I'm MAGA, at least MAGA-ish and libertarian-ish. And MTG is probably one of the biggest figures in MAGA, says the Joint Committee on Taxation, Congress's official tax scorekeeper, says that from 78% to 90% of the money raised from underreported income would likely come from those making less than $200,000 a year. Only 4% to 9% would come from those making more than $500,000 a year.
You know what? To me, it really doesn't matter whether they're going to go after the rich or they go after the middle class or go after the poor. What it's about is just giving them that power to do so. So a lot of these things they sell you with we're going to go after the rich, and so the people consent to it. And then really what they did is they now have the power to go after anybody. You know what I mean? It's always the people that make it. They always trying to sell it to people. So it's always going to be the least desirable that they're going to sell you on. And in reality is you've just given them that power and that ammunition to be able to do so. Once the IRS has the power to audit anybody and go after anybody, they're going to do it, and they're going to do it for their political opponents first and foremost. Trust me, they're not going after people that help them and are in favor of expanding the federal government and making it stronger, because that's exactly what the problem is with people on the other side, people on our side. We don't want that. And so I mean, it's almost to a certain extent, if you're working for the IRS, and here I am talking about we need to defund the IRS, we need to abolish the IRS. You got 87,000 people working for them, what they want, that are going to be saying no. And these are going to be low-level people, middle-class people like us, but that's their job, that's their livelihood. So, that's what they're going to go after first and foremost. That it doesn't make sense to think that you would destroy yourself.
And the thing that really got me with your podcast once I started listening to it was the answer to this question. I'm really interested to hear your answer to this. April Human says, what is our breaking point? So it's a general question, but I kind of feel like all of this is a lot of tension, leading us to something. I mean, it's almost like a pimple that needs to be popped type of stuff. So my thought is, I think we're beyond for at least for me, but what do we do? I think is the question. What do you say to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think the breaking point has been passed. I mean, I think everybody has their own individual journey and what they decided is their breaking point. I mean, for me, it was COVID. And once I started seeing how how they were, like I said, once you give up that power and that control, like you were saying earlier, that they want to extend the emergency, whatever it was that you said, the state of emergency for, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the example of, once you give somebody power, they're not going to give it back. It's gone forever, and you've given that away. So once I started to see that they were forcing businesses to close down, they were forcing schools to shut down, they were forcing people to wear masks, they were forcing people to get vaccinated, they were forcing all these different things. It really wasn't the what they were enforcing. It was the fact that they had the power to enforce it. So to me, that was the breaking point. That was the time to say, hey, we need to start thinking about different things. We need to start getting together. I think the biggest thing that we have going for us is that at the end of the day, you can have all the technology in the world and all the resources in the world, but people man those things, right? So if you have drones and you can do drone strikes, that's good, but somebody has to push that button. And so we need to start working with each other. And we need to start building with each other. And it may just start with conversations. It may just start on your neighborhood and your block. It may just start with your family, however it is. But people have to start having conversations about what we're going to do. And the whole thing is that, individually, like they always say, a closed fist is stronger than an individual finger and things like that. And so we need to start working with each other. I really believe that there are so many more people out there that are on our side that think the way that we think. I think the majority of people are just in the middle people that really don't have a political home. They just kind of go along with whatever the mainstream media says. But those people are easily going to be brought to our side because we're right. And at the end of the day, we are right. And we shouldn't be afraid to say these things. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. We shouldn't be afraid to stand on it. We shouldn't be afraid to go to work and have conversations with coworkers and say, you're crazy if you're really going to sit here and tell me that a man can get pregnant. I'm a man. I've been a man. I'm 39 years old. I've never been pregnant. Never had a pregnancy scare. Never thought about it. So why would I say, it's ridiculous to sit here and think that we have to sit here and argue with people about things that are completely false, that we've known forever that are to be false. So it's like we have to first and foremost, if you're at your breaking point, stop being scared to say it. That's it.
Yeah, and I think the channeling that energy into something positive is going to be huge. You said get together, and that's something we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's something that I am struggling with because I want to, and I'm going to have more left people on. You're not left, but I'm going to have people who are like actively left, who are based in truth on the show, so we can talk through some of these things. Because my theory is we are going to win, but we're not going to win until people get together. And right now we're not. And when I say people, I mean like those who are MAGA, getting together with the Libertarian Party, getting together with the Kim Iverson, Jimmy Dore left, Nico House left, the based left, where our interests intersect, anti-war, always erring with the power that we have to. So how I'm trying to do that, but it's very difficult. Do you have any thoughts on that? You can't force it, but what do you think?
You know what? I think that we continue. First of all, we look at the platforms that are doing the things like you and I are doing, right? And we support each other in that way. And we support each other. We come on each other's shows. We get the message out there. We work with each other. If we have, certain events or certain, programs that we're trying to put together, then we need to support that. We need to, there's a lot of things that we can do that people are like hating on each other. We don't have time for all that. Saying I can't, you and I can sit here and we can talk for hours and I'm pretty much sure that we can find at least one or two things that we disagree on. But so what? Like we have to look past those things and we have to just let's come together with an open mind of saying, okay, what is it that we do agree on? How can we build upon that? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to give our power away to these people, to the few, right? The very, very small minority of people that are in control of things. We don't want them to have it. So there are some people that are not going to get it, and we understand that. But the people that do, we need to start having these conversations, and we need to start elevating these voices and get these voices out there, and then to start organizing things together. Start talking about certain things. How do we put resources together to where we can have land? If you look at something like what Tim Pool is doing over there with his platform and everything like that, it's bigger than just a social media thing. It's bigger than just a podcast. So, how do we start getting involved in stuff like that? How do we start using everything to where we can start pooling these resources together? But first and foremost, it comes with the mindset. And it has a certain mindset that says that we're not going to stand for this, and we're willing to go through whatever it takes and whatever it is that's necessary in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to this End the Damn Wars movement. Have you seen that Twitter account and what they're doing with that? I don't know if you've come across that.
I haven't seen. I'm not familiar.
Okay, it's just they are. I think it's like the libertarians getting together with the populist left, who are both anti-war. And the only thing that they're focusing on is ending the damn wars. And that's what the movement's called. And they actually are doing stuff on the ground with protests and different stuff like that. So I just want to give them a shout out to people there are people doing good stuff, great stuff, I would say, out there like that. You did a podcast and an article on Scoon. So Che writes for Scoon TV, great website. And you did an article on hard times, something like hard times makes great men.
Right.
Yeah. So
strong men, yeah.
So strong men. So can you talk about that for anyone who's like, man, I'm at the breaking point. I mean, things might get worse from here, but I think there is a rainbow. That's how things get better sometimes.
Well, that was I think it's G. Michael Hoff. He's a former Marine and author, and he wrote that in one of his books where he said that hard times create strong men, and strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times, and it's like a cyclical thing, and we've seen that happen over and over and over again. And in fact, in my latest podcast, which is called Hard Times Create Strong Men, I give the example of Mike Tyson. He was a perfect example of a person who came from hard times, tough background, tough environment. It helped him become a strong man, and that strong man won the world championship, heavyweight champion of the world, and that allowed him to create good times. He got money, moved up out of the projects. He was able to have a better life, but then that better life created a weak man, and then he went on the downfall that we all know of Mike Tyson is. So that was one of the things that I kind of spoke on. But I think that a lot of the conditions are going to bring out something in people, and I think that people don't understand that. What I fear most. This is what I fear most, is that we're going to get kind of put to sleep, and things are going to move in kind of a slow, kind of a lull you to sleep type of mentality, a way of happening, and so we don't really see it. But I think that now we're kind of past that. I think that that's what was going on, in the years leading up. I think this whole globalist thing can be traced back to the first Bush Senior and things like that. I think that they were really on board with that globalist movement. And I think Clinton and everybody else, and George W. and Obama, they were all in on it. And I think that they were just slowly putting us to sleep and moving us towards that way. I think the biggest wrench was Trump. And I think that Trump kind of made it to where they had to accelerate things. And that's kind of created this, right now we're kind of in a fast pace towards this whole one world government, this whole globalist agenda. And I think that that's going to create a lot of difficult times. And you've seen that for people, that people are starting to look at this. And there's people that not necessarily Trump supporters, and not necessarily conservative, and not necessarily, MAGA, but are looking and saying, hey, we're not going to do another lockdown. That was a scam. We're not going to do another. We're not going to go for this and more protests and riots and things like that, for things that we think that you're clearly lying to us about. And I think people are starting to open up their eyes to that. So I think that these quote unquote hard times are going to bring out the best in people. Maybe there's some things that you haven't seen in yourself personally. Maybe you haven't been through hard times in your life, or been through such adversity that you can, that you can really point to as saying, okay, well, that's proof that I can overcome this. But it doesn't mean you can't. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere. And I think that right now, like, as for me personally, and I use it, and I have the episode I did before this last one is called Victory in Adversity. And what I talked about is, like, my experiences is that whenever I was into certain prisons, the worst prisons I was at was bring out the best people. And we coalesced and came together and made the best out of a situation that was really, really bad. And then the places I've been that was really, really good and had the most freedoms and the most opportunities to do things, you saw the lackadaisical people. You saw people that were lazy and weren't really trying to have that type of discipline, that type of structure. And I think that that's true. That's just true of human nature. And when things get tough people rise to the top, and I think we're going to see that. And I'm really that's why I get optimistic of a lot of these things. You know what I mean? It's almost exciting to a certain extent to say, okay, I can't wait to see some of these, see how we respond, because I think it's going to be good.
Yes. There's a video that's going around, I think, that goes on the topic that you're talking about right now. Let me play this for everyone right now here. This is for Sav Says, Savannah Hernandez. Let's hear this.
Joe Biden keeps tweeting out things like this, how the gas prices are lowering, that, we're not really in a recession.
We are going through a recession right now. You have to actually be out here to actually see the results of what's going on in this recession. And trust me, it is a recession because it is hard for us right now.
So what would you say to Joe Biden, who says we're not really in a recession?
You need to do your homework.
Yeah.
It's real bad out here. It's easy to say it from the comfort of where you at right now. You know, you don't have to go through what we're going through. So it's easy to say that.
Are you happy with Joe Biden as president?
No, I'm not.
No. You
No,
think
I'm
he's
not.
doing a good job, bad job?
He sucked. He ain't doing shit.
Get Joe Biden out of office?
Get him out. Get his ass out. Get him out, coach.
What do you think about the Biden administration redefining the term recession?
That doesn't sound like a recession to me.
This is
But-
the worst recession we've been in. To be honest, we've never had a recession where gas, housing, I mean, you name it. At one time, even when people's houses were going into foreclosure, those people that lost their homes could at least still go into a grocery store and buy a regular price item. Now you got houses that are out of control, cars out of control, gas out of control, food out of control.
I feel like everything going up. Like it's not making sense to me how when Trump was here, everything was low. Like we had like $2-3 worth of gas.
A lot of people are going to actually vote for Trump that never thought. This Oak Cliff, Texas. Trust me, a lot of us will vote for him now than we did before because we went for the good guy saying the right things. But as soon as he got in office, he did everything wrong. He turned around every policy that Trump done.
Do you think that he's doing a good job or a bad job as president?
Bad job. He making it worse. Hell, we could have kept Donald Trump for this shit.
I thought that was funny. You have any thoughts on that, Jay?
Yeah, I mean that's, we all look to gas prices, and I think the reason we look to gas prices is because everybody needs gas to get to where they're going, and I think that energy is so fundamental to. It's like the lifeblood of our economy, and not only that, and to be, I mean, most people know, a lot of people know that, but at the end of the day, you see the gas prices, like you literally see them. They're on big billboards as you drive down on every corner. So you can actually see that where it was $2 last year, it's $3 now, or $4, or wherever you're at. Where I'm at, I'm in LA. It's almost $6, right? So it's like we see that, but we also see it in other things. We also see it. One of the things that I've noticed, I know, like me and my wife like to go out to eat. And so I know certain restaurants. I'm the one that pays. So I know at this restaurant, I'm going to pay for both of us. If we get an appetizer, if we get each, entrees, it's going to be about $50. It's going to be, and now those same restaurants, it's $80, $90. Now, when we go out to eat, we just went out to eat last night. And I was like, I'm already expected to pay $100 for the two of us to go eat. I'm expecting that. Yeah, that's just the reality. That wasn't the reality 2 years ago, 3 years ago. That wasn't where we were at. So we see it happening. And I think that, they can redefine things all you want. You can sit here and change the definitions and say that this doesn't, up is down and down is up and all that type of things. But everyday Americans are seeing what's going on. Everyday Americans, they go to the gas pump, they go to the grocery store, they go to McDonald's, and they realize that the meal that they were paying $8 for at McDonald's last year is now costing $12. That's a reality. So all these things are really happening, and so it's inevitable that the people are going to get upset about it. But there has to be some messaging. There has to be some messaging on our part to explain this and to explain the connection and show how this is going on, because they just go in there and say, I kind of laugh at it now because, you have the White House press secretary. She's bragging about the gas prices going down. And I'm thinking to myself, but when they were up, you said he has no control over the gas prices. That was the greedy corporations price gouging. So should we thank the corporations or should we thank Joe Biden? It doesn't make sense. And so I think that's what's going on. That's where we come in, and we have to, connect the dots.
Yeah, it's a gradual. Yeah, because I find myself having to hold back because I almost want to rush to the Federal Reserve in 1913, and people aren't ready for all that, because I think it's important to note that inflation to me is bigger than Biden. Even Trump did a lot of spending. So it's even bigger than those. So it's good that people they're waking up to it. But the messaging I find is hard because I kind of even tell people, well, to me, inflation is just creating more money and putting it in circulation, and people just think it's higher prices, and you get into nuances. But where I'm going to take that is I think the MAGA movement, America First, whatever you want to call it, I think it's just a fancy name for populist right. I think I have no choice but to support that movement at this point. There's no other political party or movement that is anywhere close to fighting everything we just talked about today other than MAGA. Let me play a clip. And this is just this is just a really simple thing. That's how crazy things are today, is that for them to say, this is going to be Carrie Lake at one of her rallies, for her to do something like this, and for me, it felt really good. And it's so simple. That's how crazy things have gotten.
Now, the most important thing is we got to bring him back. No, I'm not talking about who you think, but I do agree with you on that. We've got to bring him back. Right? When we kicked God out, that is when our troubles began. And we got to invite God back into our culture. We've got to invite God back into our homes. And we have got to invite God back into our hearts. Because let me tell you something, God is on our side. And with God's help, we will win this and we will save this republic. Because when you have God on your side and you have America First policies, we are all going to live a better life because of that.
So the reason why I bring that up is I find myself having to side with MAGA. And that message is so simple because things are so crazy. What's your view on, you can talk about Carrie Lake if you know, or MAGA in general?
Well, first of all, what she's saying, here's the thing with that. That's a threat to the establishment because the establishment wants to be God. Anything that stands in the way, and this is why people of faith, whether you believe in it or not, and I'm not a religious zealot or anything like that, but what I believe is that, human beings, we have an inclination towards a higher power. We have an inclination to believe in something greater than ourselves. But what the most dangerous thing about that to people that want power is that they can't control that. They can't control that need in us as human beings to want to be something better than what we are. It helps us to strive to become better. Now, when you're trying to take control and you're trying to control people, you have to get rid of that ideology. You have to eradicate that completely because people are just going to say, I'm going to God. I don't need you. I don't need man. And that's what the establishment wants. They want to be God. There's a book. George Jackson, who was a prisoner here in California, who was a Marxist, and he talked about he has a book called Soledad Brother. He was killed in 1971, by the way. But he has in the book he talks about a story from the Chinese Communist Party. He said that they were the Chinese Communist Party, and I don't know how true this is. This is just something that he said, and he might have heard it from somebody else. But it kind of exemplifies what they do, right? It said the Chinese Communist Party would go to the schools and it would tell the kids to close your eyes and bow your head and pray to God for the next 5 minutes for ice cream, that he would bring you ice cream. And the kids would sit there for 5 minutes and be bowing their head and praying and praying and praying. And then they would look up and there would be no ice cream. And then they would say, now pray to the Communist Party to bring you ice cream. And the kids would pray to the Communist Party and say, bring us ice cream. And then they would be right there with ice cream. And so what it does is they understand that there is a hole or there's a void in each human being, that we want something greater than ourselves. We want to sit there and get power from something other than another man that we see as just being equal to ourselves. And so what they do is they fill that vacuum. They fill that void. That's what the Marxists want to do, is fill that. Whether you believe in God to be true or whether you believe in religion to be true or not is irrelevant. The fact of the matter is that is a threat to what they're trying to do. So when she's saying something like that, this is why they want to get rid of that. This is why they want to get rid of God, and they want to get rid of religion. They want to get rid of faith, because once you get rid of that, then it has to be filled with something. You know, you and I were talking yesterday. Here's the problem. The problem is that you go into there and you tell people, hey, look, with our message, we need to be less government. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to stand on our own. We don't want them. We want to be independent. The reality is that the people that we're preaching this to have been indoctrinated and brainwashed by these Marxists and by the left to believe that you need to be dependent on them, that the government's job is to care for you. I just seen a tweet by, I think it was Rob Reich, who is a leftist weirdo. Anyways, but he said something, and this is what they all say, like when in the Roe v. Wade. Well, you guys are not pro-life because you want to get rid of abortion. You want to force women to have kids, and then you don't want to help them take care of it. That's not the government's job. The government is not there to take care of you. They're not there to baby you, and they're not there to hold your hand and to walk you through life. Unfortunately, that's what they have done, is they've created this subclass of people who are constantly dependent and constantly want the government to take care of them. They have become essentially their God. They ask for food, clothing, and shelter, and the government delivers it to them on the backs of other people that actually work. You see what I'm saying? So this is the problem with when I see that clip right there. That clip is becoming so dangerous to the left because the left wants to be God. And in order for all this to work, the people have to completely submit to God, and that God is the government.
Exactly what I see there. And you see why I just find myself having to align with MAGA. I just align with what's right for me now. Now, it might be a time down the road. Maybe we get towards more liberty and I separate more from MAGA to more of a comic Dave Smith or Michael Malice or Eric July, whoever. But right now, what do you think? Do you feel like, because where you sound right now, I have an intro where I say, if you're not bending the knee to them, viewing them as God, then you are MAGA, whether you like it or not, whether you're left or right or libertarian. So if I were to say, Jay, what you just told me, whether you admit it or not, whether you put that red hat on or not, you're MAGA, what would you tell me?
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. There are some things, there are some, I like Trump. I voted for Trump this last election. I don't have no problem saying that. There are some things that I dislike about Trump, that I didn't like that he did, some of his policies. I think that we do have to we do have to guard against what happens when sides become so polarized. So when the left goes extremely left, then we have a tendency to go extremely right and almost overlook some of the errors in our side because we don't want to, because we don't want to be seen as the other side. So it's almost like we just kind of overlook certain things. And I think there's some things that need to be talked about as far as Trump and his policies. And I think there's some criticisms there that are warranted. However, when you look at what's going on, I mean, either you're going to be AOC or you're going to be Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'll be Marjorie Taylor Greene all day long. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with her. I don't have a problem with MAGA. I think, in that scenario, MAGA is 100% way better than anything else that's out there right now. But that doesn't bother me. I've kind of gone past all that. These people will say, well, if you don't support this, then you're racist, or if you don't support this, then you're a transphobe. And I've kind of just got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, if that's your definition, I can't change that. Oh, well, that's what I am. You know what I mean? In your view.
Yep, I've gone there too. What I'm seeing is that it's almost like I feel like I'm getting pushed over to that side. Like I've never been a huge organized religion person. I still am not. But I feel myself talking about God more often. I feel myself like I'm in a discussion with people. I like Twitter because there's more echo chambers clashing than like Truth or these other sites. So I need to be tested on my philosophies because I'm early in my journey. I'm not well read like you and many of these other people. So I'm getting there. But I find myself asking someone I think the reason why we disagree, even with gender stuff, is do you believe in God? And then 99% of the time, they don't even answer the question. We've been chatting back and forth. They never answer that question. And it's nothing against them. You can have your belief, but I think that might be the separating difference between us.
I think so too. I mean, I think that's a fundamental. It is a fundamental belief, because the thing is that when you don't have that belief and you don't have that faith, then your faith becomes whatever the other side tells you. And so we're seeing very people become very tribalistic, and they're very tribalistic to where they're addicted to these personalities. So AOC can say something today, and then tomorrow say something completely different, but people are still going to follow her because they follow AOC, and that's what they're doing. And, a lot of these things aren't rooted in logic and reason. They're rooted in emotions. They're rooted in whatever makes you feel good today. You know what I mean? I mean, look at, 3 years ago, nobody would have said anything about a man getting pregnant. People would have laughed at that. Now it's becoming doctrine on their side, to where if you don't agree with that, you're transphobic. We just saw that exchange that Josh Hawley had with that professor of law. She was a professor of law from UC Berkeley, a prominent school, right? I mean, it's like she was over here saying that it was transphobic to say that he doesn't believe men can get pregnant. So that's, they're constantly changing. They're constantly moving the goalposts. And I think if you don't have, the thing about God and religion is that it's a standard, and it's an easily definable standard. And I think right now what's going on is what you're seeing is that they're creating chaos with this whole gender theory. And these things are meant to create chaos, and they're meant to create confusion, because nobody can define anything anymore. If we can't define what a man and woman is, then everything else just crumbles. Right. And so what happens is that now you have a population that is looking for answers. They need to have definitions. And so conveniently, they'll be like the kids with the Chinese Communist Party, and they'll go and they'll pray to them and say, help us get some definition here. Help us to get some chaos. And like they say, out of chaos, they create order.
Yeah, I want to show some of the tactics I think that are being used to confuse things, because I agree with you. If we just look at the United States, I would guess 70+% of people are reasonably minded, can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And that's why they have to censor. That's why they have to downrank in the algorithm. That's why the algorithm has to remain private. That's why Elon can't buy Twitter. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have the popular ideology, then you're going to have to smear. You're going to have to potentially cheat in different ways. You're going to have to do all kinds of things to end up winning. And here's one of the things. If I were in the cabal, I would send people who are fake populists to get control and try that at least. I think that's what AOC, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, that's what they have all become. Cori Bush. Mm-hmm. Fake figures who are really, they report through the establishment, but they appease the populist left to a certain extent. Here's what I'm bringing up. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. To me, if I were in Wyoming, I would vote for Harriet. But here's what some people are saying. They're trying to confuse things. So Harriet Hageman and Liz Cheney, they're old friends. So going back through them here, she used to work for Liz Cheney. They worked against Trump in 2016. And so what they're saying is in Wisconsin, I think they're trying to play games. They're trying to get people to not vote against Cheney, even though it looks like a done deal, by saying, hey, she used to be against Trump. She's running an anti-Cheney campaign, but she used to be with Cheney. She was an advisor with Cheney. And like I said, in 2016, they worked together to prevent Trump from securing the Republican nomination. Now, to me, that was a long time ago. But here's the tricky thing that we have to kind of decide. So that's where that is. And then you hear her, same thing with J.D. Vance in Ohio. He was openly anti-Trump. But now you hear her, and here's what she sounds like. And I say, you have no choice at this point but to give her a chance because of this.
We're fed up with the Green New Deal and the socialists who created it. We're fed up with the attacks on our fossil fuel and energy industries. We're fed up with an open border. We're fed up with human trafficking. We're fed up with fentanyl flooding our country, and we're fed up with illegal immigration. We're fed up with critical race theory. We're fed up with boys competing in girls' sports. We're fed up with We're fed up with the liberal media, Twitter, Facebook, Google, and YouTube for blocking conservative speech. We're fed up with our government and universities censoring conservative thought, canceling debate, and rewriting history. We're fed up with the corruption in the FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, the CIA, the NSA, and the FISA court. We're fed up with mask mandates, vaccine mandates, the CDC, the NIH, the WHO, and the misinformation campaign surrounding COVID-19. And we're fed up with Anthony Fauci. We're fed up with the politicians and the elitists in D.C. who are getting rich while the middle class falls further behind every year. We're fed up with Joe Biden, with Nancy Pelosi. We're fed up with the January 6th Commission and those people who think that they can gaslight us. And we're fed up with Liz Cheney. And we are putting everyone on notice. As of November 8th, we're taking our country back.
So that's another example. Now, what I want to bring up to you is, how do we discern if somebody is fake or real? Do you have thoughts on that?
Well, first, that was a great video. I mean,
It was dope.
That was a great video. Like the way she did that, man, that was great. You know, I mean, it's like this. You know, the thing is that in 2016, you know, you and I were made in a different place. You know what I mean? I mean, I look at it like this: is Liz Cheney saying any of those things? Is Liz Cheney saying any? Is she saying any? Is she saying any of those things? Any of it? Just one of those things. I don't see her saying not one. I don't think, you know, she is the you know, quintessential uniparty globalist Republican. That's what she is, and she's a neocon. Look at her dad. Look where her dad was at. You know what I mean? Like I don't. You know, I hate when people say, like, you know, I vote for anybody but so and so, because that's kind of how we got Joe Biden in here. People having that kind of mindset. But I mean, I think the only thing that we can do is we look at what is Liz Cheney saying, and she's not saying any of these things. And in fact, she's the antithesis of the everything that she's talking about. So why not give her your vote? I don't think, you know, it's kind of it's a big step nowadays. It's a big step to say those things. Like it's very, very controversial. It's very it can be career suicide to say a lot of these things that she's saying. So the fact that she is, I mean, we all woke up during COVID. We all woke up, you know, when we started seeing when you know, I just seen Ron DeSantis the other day said it, and he said what everybody else knew, that when the so-called medical experts said it was okay to riot, it was okay to protest for Black Lives Matter, but it wasn't okay to protest for lockdowns because that would spread COVID. But somehow COVID can differentiate between a Black Lives Matter protest and an anti-lockdown protest. We knew that they were frauds. That's what Ron DeSantis said. I firmly believe in that. So, you know, she might have worked for Liz Cheney back then. She might have been friends with her back then. She might have been against Trump back then. But that doesn't mean that she didn't go through everything that we all went through and had the same type of outlook. I don't have a problem with it. That was a great video, man. If you can, send that to me. I
will. Yeah, for sure. Now, you know the video's dope because she's not that type of row person. They did a great edit with that. They were a little petty with Joe Biden falling up the stairs. That was funny. I noticed they had Kevin McCarthy in that video. That was dope.
Yeah.
Like saying, you next, bruh.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like that, and she's calling out her own party. You know what I'm saying? Like I can like you don't see Liz Cheney doing that. You don't see Liz Cheney doing. Liz Cheney ain't calling out Adam Kinzinger because they're on the same side. You see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
I don't know. I think a lot of people have been, their eyes have been open to what's going on. Everything that she said there, I agree with every last one of those things. That we're fed up with all those people, all those things. That the at the end, Biden being a puppet for China, we all know it. You know what I'm saying? And we're all, whether you didn't see it 4 years ago, because I didn't see it 4 years ago. You know what I mean? So to me, yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think that was a great video, and why not?
Yeah, and I think ultimately what really exposed the squad to me was voting. So we don't know what. How do you is it Hageman? It's Hageman, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, we won't know if she's real or not, to me, until the vote. But at this point, just like you said, Liz Cheney, she's not even saying that stuff, and it's a risk to even be saying this stuff. When it comes to vote for money to this war or that war, we'll know who's real or not. So don't worry. Right now, the choice is obvious. So that's my response to B. Deering that says if she's for real, then yes, but it takes a lot to figure out the swamp. I agree. So we have a question that will be out. So I'm going to do a question from B. Deering here. And then I love the story about how you got into writing. Let's do that. And then after that, we'll tell everybody how to support you and reach out. So B. Deering, a friend of the show, 11 says, question, please. What do y'all think of the 3 that got killed in the wreck? That seems so suspicious to me. Do you know what he's talking about? I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not familiar with the 3 that got killed in the wreck.
Oh, was that? I know there's some news stories out there that I have not been able to read about multiple kinds of.
That was recently?
I don't know. I think it might be because I've been seeing stuff come across my timeline that I haven't had a chance to read into.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody in the chat can provide a little bit more context with that. But that's something I'll definitely look into. But
yeah,
so I like having writers on the show because to me, whether you're like a musician, like writing lyrics, MCs, that's why I really look at MCs, and when they write, man, if they're really writing their own lyrics, the thought that goes into them. You're a writer. How did you get into writing? And tell us a little bit about that origin story there.
Well, I mean, I've always been pretty good at writing. Even when I was a kid, like I said, we were talking yesterday, and I actually wrote an article when I was like 10 years old on the '94 earthquake here in LA. And so, and my grandma got it published in like a small newspaper, but I was able to. So I was always into writing. But actually, when I was incarcerated, there was an older brother there he had probably been, at the time, it was like 30 years in. He had been incarcerated, and so we were. He had a lot of books, and so that's like I said, I was on this mission to learn. I was on this mission to learn. I wanted to educate myself, and that really came from, and just a quick little story that I didn't share with you was, I sat in the courtroom, and I would go to court, and every time I would go to court, there'd be the DA, my lawyer, the judge, and everybody, and they would be talking, in these legalese terms that I wasn't really familiar with. It's all, legal jargon and everything like that. And I really just sat there. I would really sit there and be like, this is crazy because they're talking about my life and I have no idea what's going on. But it's my life is the one that's going to be affected, and all these people get to go home. And so that kind of like sparked something to me to say, I'm never going to be in this situation again. I'm never going to be ignorant like this again. So I was really on this mission to learn and learn and learn. And so there was a brother there, the first prison that I ended up going to. He had a lot of books, and he used to just let me read them and let me read them and let me read them. And then finally he started saying, when are you going to write something? And I would be like, what do you mean? Why would I need to write something? He said, man, look, the reason that you're able to get this information is because somebody decided to sit down and write about it. He was like, it doesn't do anybody any good. This information and this knowledge that you're collecting is going to die with you unless you decide to write something about it. So he would tell me, write me an essay. And then he started saying, I'm not giving you another book until you write an essay on the last one. And so that kind of forced me and said, okay, I'm going to write. And then he would critique it. He would look at it and he was tough, and he would look at it and be like, you're all over the place. I don't know what you're talking about. You're going from here to there, this and this and that. So it really helped me to kind of hone in on my writing, and it gave me more of a passion to write because I wanted to read. I really just wanted to get the information. In order for me to get the information, I had to do the writing. And then it just became something of a test to myself. You know what I mean? Once I left from him, it just became something that I challenged myself to do all the time, like write it down, because I believe that. I believe that if, we can all sit here with a whole bunch of information and knowledge, and that sounds good, but if we're not actually doing something about it, if we're not trying to get it out there and help people and just throw our hat in the ring. You know what I mean? One of the principles that we live by, as far as in the program that I've started, is number one, is not one person knows everything, but everybody knows something. So whatever that you have to contribute, life is about perspective and different perspectives. There's might be something that you see that I don't see, and something from your life experiences that gives insight into something from my life experiences. The whole point is that we bring it together, and that's the point of us having these kind of conversations. And that really just kind of really helped me with this whole writing thing, and it just gave me that love and a passion to do so.
And I'm not a good writer. I'm having to do it a little bit more now with planning out videos and forcing to defend my arguments on Twitter and doing Twitter threads. One thing that I found out is it's one thing to read about stuff and have it in your head, but then there's another level to have to articulate it and defend it. So I think that dude that really helped you there, man, he helped you through the process, because you absorbed the information, you understood it, then you articulated it, and now you really commanded it at that point, is what it sounds like. So we look forward to hearing more. Tell everybody how to support you. Where you got the podcast, you've got the Scoon TV articles, then you've got the Reuniting Fathers.
Yeah, so you can check my podcast out on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. It's the No Spoon Podcast. Go to Apple or Spotify or wherever it is, or Anchor. You can follow me on social media. My Instagram is at the No Spoon Podcast, but that one has been so heavily censored. I've kind of have restrictions on there for the next 2 years, it seems like. So I've started a new page, Che_uncensored. That's where I'm doing most of my posting and everything on there. On Twitter, it's at No Spoon Podcast. You can follow me on all those different platforms and everything like that. ScoonTV.com is a great platform, independent media. It's talking about all different sides. It's unbiased, and that's what I really love about it. Scoon doesn't really censor us. He doesn't talk about. He lets us just talk. So that's what we're doing. Also, I have my nonprofit organization. I'm working with Rebuilding Cali Alliance. We're getting these guys that are getting them out of prison, getting them ready to become the leaders and the pillars of society that they are. If you want to support that, we're holding classes every Saturday. We're right there in the thick of it too. We're in South Central LA off 76 and Avalon at Peace Chapel Baptist Church. That's who's working with. It's important to me to be less of a person that just talks and be somebody that's out there doing something and really out there just making moves and really helping these people. Man, that's the most important thing. We ran our first class yesterday, and one brother came up to me and said, "Man, you motivated me, man," because we don't do the victim stuff. We don't do that. We understand the power that we have. We want to empower these guys, get them back and being who they are supposed to be, and that's the people that are really influencing their community in a positive direction. They've already did the negative stuff. We want to do the positive things now. But if you want to help support that, you can email me at redpillche at thenospoonpodcast.com. Send me an email there. If you wanted more information about it, I'll get back to you. Also on my different platforms, hit me up there. I can give you all the information you need and show you what we're doing. We're really doing good stuff, man.
Well, Che, thanks a lot. We got to do it again. The feedback from everybody chatting has been amazing. I've got your podcast link pinned in the chat. Here's Che's Twitter on there. So yeah, we've got other people, other creators in here already. Let me reach out to you. Let's do it. Let's build. Thanks a lot, Che. Appreciate you. Thanks everybody for listening. Take care. Any last words?
Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Don't be afraid to tell what's really in front of you. You know what I mean? That's the end of the day. Men can't get pregnant. You know that. I know that. We all know that. So whatever is true, stand on that. Don't be afraid, because we're here. We'll support you. There's people here that think just like you, man. I appreciate you, and thank you for having me on there, Cyrus.
Yes, as always. Thanks, everybody. Take care. We're out.